let's do this. I'm only 14 minutes late. So, I mean, I was doing homework. Okay, I was doing homework. And I got to go back to doing homework. So, this show is going to have to be short. And we know it's probably, I'm a lie. I be lying every time. Every time. But it's okay. It's okay. We know that I'm chatty Cathy around here, and that's what we do. Welcome back to the Daily Dose with Des. I'm Des, and we're going to dive into some things. We have so many things, but I had to cut it short. I did cut some of the topics short, right? But I do have to talk about the college football brawl that just like went completely viral and people are talking about it. And for once, I mean, maybe for twice, I actually agree with Cam Newton on this subject. Yeah, I do though. I do. And then we have to talk about the shockers that are coming to LA28. I know we a couple years away, but they already making shock waves up in this thing, letting us know ahead of time. So don't be okay. And it's not exactly all that you think. Okay, because I was in the comments and I had to read about it. We're going to talk about the Guardians and their pitchers and they're being accused of fraud. Yeah, we're going to get into that. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some Equestrian 101 because I talked about it before on my other show, but I had to cut that part out because some of it was factual and some of it was just brain farts. So I'm going to get into a little bit of Equestrian 101. That's the horse riding, that's the racing and all of that. So I'm going to get into that. So we do have quite a few things to discuss. So grab a snack and get on right back. Make sure you're hitting that like button right now. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you can get your notifications and follow on all social media platforms at PT Love Sports. So let's go ahead and get into our get into. And I will see you right after this. Admit it. Turn it up, turn it loud. Got you feeling so proud. This is how we do it now. Daily Dose with this. Got you coming back for more. Okay, let's go ahead and dive up in. I don't have too much to say. Beforehand, I've already given you the topics. I already told you what we're going to be doing. And that is that. Okay, so we are going to start right away with basketball. Jalen Brunson is injured again. And I say again because it's the exact same ankle sprain that put him out for 15 games last season, and now he has it again. He has it again. Can somebody get in some ankle braces, some ankle straps or something? Just give them new ankles at this point. New ankles. Okay? And I knew this was happening because I was watching the game last night. Well, I was attempting to watch the game last night. And as soon as I turned it on, I seen Jalen Brunson on the court and he grabbed at his leg. I said, nope. Nope. I turned it off. And what happened today? I turned on the X. Because I know it's a TV show over there. And then I seen the news that he has a high ankle sprain. And it's the same ankle injury that he had last season. So this shall be great. They did lose to Orlando. Yeah, that's another thing too. I was like, nope. I'm not watching the Knicks lose to the Orlando Magic. I'm just not. Now mind you, the Orlando Magic, they aren't slouches. They've been doing something really, really grand over there. Their star is going to be out too with a groin, but I'm not talking about him right now. But the Orlando Magic, they're decent, and I feel like they have potential to be really, really good, but I just don't want them to be better than the Knicks. So when I saw that they were beating the Knicks, I said, oh no. Not today. And I turned that thing right on off. So we're going to hope for Jalen Brunson's quick and speedy recovery because we need him on the court. We need Karl-Anthony Towns on the court. And when he is on the court, we need him to be up. We need Josh Hart to do his thing when he's on the court. Like, there's just so many pieces there. There's so many pieces there, but they all work together. I feel like when it's an injury or something's out and somebody's playing like dog crap, it just doesn't work out. So, but still early in the season, so it's okay. It's okay. But it's not okay because Jalen Brunson being hurt is just never okay, in my opinion. But we did have to, open up the show with Mr. Jalen. Okay, We're going to move on. So the NBA All-Star game was like, you know what? We're going to change it up with y'all. We're going to change it up with y'all. We heard y'all. We heard y'all saying y'all want East versus West. We heard y'all saying that, the All-Star game is not as, super competitive as it used to be. There's no defense and all that. They said they heard all of that. They heard all of that, right? And it was like, so you know what we're going to do for y'all? We are going to give y'all a new format. We're going to give y'all new formats, right? And here's the key thing, though. They never said they were going to go back or give us the old format. They said we're going to give you a new one. So this time, they was like, we got one for y'all. We're going to give you 2 U.S. teams and 1 international team. And they're going to play a round robin of, 12-minute games. And at the end of the round robin, the top 2 teams will advance to the final game, the championship game, and they're going to play for it. The selection, the way that they select the players is not going to change. That part's not going to change. But yeah, that's what they're going to do. And it kind of makes you think, if we said we wanted East versus West, how do we end up with 2 U.S. teams in the international? Huh? So if the international team doesn't win anything, right? Doesn't make it to the advance. So we're gonna have USA 1 or USA versus USAB. What is we doing? What is we doing? And I want to make sure I gave that to y'all correct, because I definitely, had to pull up the article, because I was like, what? How are we doing this? And do we like it? Do we like it? Do we like the US 2 USA team format? Do we like it? I mean, so yeah, I had it right. The round robin, the tournament will consist of 4 12-minute games. I had that right. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, in the selection, they will no longer have positional requirements. So, if you want to have 5 guards on your team, I guess that's fine too. But, cool, whatever. Just kidding. But essentially, that positional requirement is not going to be there anymore. And it says fans, media, and players will vote for the 5 starters and the 7 reserved based on overall performance, not by guard, forward, center split. So they're not doing any of that anymore. There will be 24 players, and they will divide them into 2 U.S. teams and 1 international world team. Okay. And it's going to be very, it's supposed to, I don't know what it's supposed to do, to be honest. But I do say here, for a roster balance, if the initial player pool does not contain at least 16 American players and 8 international players, the commissioner will add players to meet the minimum requirements. So there are minimum requirements that need to be made for these teams. And it basically says the traditional requirement of 2 guards and 3 front court players for starters will be eliminated, and you basically would just start. So really what I said was kind of true. If you want 5 guards, you can just have 5 guards. But we all know that that's not going to happen. But it's just kind of like, how did we get here? How did we get here? If anything, it should have just been U.S. versus world team. I think there's enough players in the league who are from other countries that will gladly play on the world team, and then the U.S. players play on the U.S. team, because typically that's what we see for the Olympics. The Olympics is coming around pretty soon, so I kind of understand that part of getting ready for the Olympics and trying to make sure and build that American team. But this is All-Star, and All-Star is really not, and it hasn't been, the most competitive game in the past couple years. So I really don't fully understand how they got to that moment of getting this, like having 2 U.S. teams and 1 world team. Like, that part to me is still a little confusing, because it's like, why not just have U.S. versus world if we're going to just do that? And the round robin is like, okay, well, are they going to take it serious? That's what I really want to know. How serious are they going to take it? Because if you're going to do 4 12-minute games and you're not taking it serious enough and nobody's playing any defense, then it's not going to be good anyway. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it will be played in LA. So, LA likes to do things different. Who knows? I'm waiting to see who gets voted on what team and such and how it works out for it. I don't know. Which I think. Let me know. Let me know. All right. We're going to be moving on to, I'm going to jump and stick to, since we're talking about, I just mentioned the Olympics, we're going to talk about LA28. And apparently my photo isn't up here anymore. So give me a second. All right. Oh, you know what I did? I definitely deleted it off of my thing. So we're just going to use this one because I deleted the actual other post the other thing that I want to have. But LA28 came out today and made a shocker statement and was like, what, excuse me. Then, and what kind of got me, and again, I like to research and I got to make sure I'm bringing you all of it. So they made the announcement that the women's Olympic rounds, so, you know, the 3 rounds, including the finals, will be ran on one day. So runners will have to run possibly 3 times in one day for the Olympics in 2028. And a lot of people, again, because y'all know I'll be in the comments fishing through to see where I can actually educate if education is needed, you know. But a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be like, they definitely didn't talk to athletes about this. This is very sexist and things, because the men will run their initial race with the women on the opening day, and then they will run their semifinal and final on the next day. So they don't really, you know, they have that day in between or whatever. And then I was like, okay, well, like, let's figure out what exactly is going on here. And the Olympic team, meaning the commission, the LA Olympic team, made changes really to a lot of different things. And they have so much that they have to get scheduled in. So they just made scheduled changes, and they moved swimming to the second week. And swimming's going to be happening at SoFi Stadium. So they're going to be turning it all into a swimming pool, but the opening ceremony is also at SoFi. So it's like, okay, you can't start swimming at SoFi and have the opening ceremony at SoFi at the same time. That ain't gonna work. So they moved them back to week 2. And then they moved track and field to week 1. And the way that they did it. I also want to note, though, that this was talked about and agreed upon through the track commissions, and the athletes were known. And I'm going to read you a part of this article as to why, because some of this article was like, this is for like women empowerment and positivity and equality. You see what happens. You see what happens. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Read between the lines. Okay? But okay. So the article here says that the LA28 includes a major change, and you can find a lot of this, of the whole schedule and everything that the U.S. Olympics is going to do, that the LA Olympics is going to do on USA Today's. They have a full-on like schedule, and you can see some of the changes, some of the things that are added, some things are taken away, all of that jazz. So basically, they're just saying that the women's 100-meter track and field final will take place on the opening night. So you're going to open up the Olympics with a women's track and field gold, silver, and bronze medalist for the 100 meter. So you got to be locked in from the beginning of the Olympics, because a lot of people know you lock in for track and field. So you're going to be locked in. You're going to see the opening ceremony, and then you're going to have a gold medalist. That's what you're going to do. Right? And this is all according to the Olympic gold medalist and World Athletics president, Sebastian Coe. I think it's Coe, C-O-E, right? And it says the scheduling shift, which will see the men's final move to the second night, was made in an effort to celebrate equality. I didn't say this. This is what the president said. He's also an Olympic gold medalist. This is what he said, right? And end quote, it's really important that we are able not only to talk about equality, but to actually demonstrate it in a really powerful way. And there's no bigger platform than the first day of an Olympic Games featuring the women's 100-meter final. The women's 100-meter final will take place on July 15th, 2028, one day after the Olympics opening ceremony. The event will run inside of the historic Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which also hosted the 1932 and 1984 Summer Olympics. In order to accommodate the schedule, all 3 rounds of the women's 100 meters will need to be run on that same day, marking a first at the Olympic Games. Meanwhile, the men will run their first round on July 15th and their semifinals and finals on July 16th, with athletes and coaches having already been consulted regarding the changes. So a lot of people were in the comments like, they couldn't have talked to the athletes and the coaches. They could have just made that. They have. They did. They consulted. They know. Okay? Sometimes all it takes is for you just to do a little research. But don't worry. I do it for you. That's why you should watch the show. Okay? Moving on. All right. So they've already been consulted and they already know. And then this is going to be a quote coming from the LA28 Chief Athlete Officer, Janet Evans. She says, "It was one of the things we talked about, running 3 100 meters in one day." And then it moved on to ask the athletes and the coaches, how would that feel as an athlete, mentally and physically? What does that mean? And we took that question very seriously as we spoke to the athletes' commissions of LA28 as well as athletes' commissions of World Athletics. And so I think when we presented it to the athletes in that way, there was excitement. And for the few naysayers, the majority of the athletes said that they just want to know right away as soon as possible so they can properly prepare and change their training schedules to be able to do it. Running 3 100-meter races in one day is very much possible and it can be done, but they have to train for it. Okay. And then it also says the women's final headlining opening night isn't the only notable scheduling change, as I already explained, how swimming got bumped back because it's going to be at SoFi. So there you have it. In case you didn't want to go ahead and do the research for yourself, I researched it for you. So now that you know, the athletes know, the coaches know, the commission and the World Athletics all came upon this agreement that they want to have this huge moment for the women's 100 meter the day after opening night, the opening of the games. This is what they want to showcase. This is what they want to see. And more likely it's going to be an American. So how do you open it up with a bang is to have a woman in the 100 meters win the very first night of Olympic Games. So they all know. It's nothing new. Usually you get to see swimming. You ain't gonna get to see. I love swimming. I love watching the swimming for the Olympics. So it don't matter which week it's on. I'm gonna watch it. I like watching track too. So it don't matter which week it's on, what day it's on. I'm gonna watch it. So it's gonna happen. But it was already consulted with the people, so y'all don't have to worry about it. The athletes are training for it. They got plenty of time to train for it. They said it can be done, and they're going to make it happen. They're going to get it done. So I did want to put that out there because a lot of people were giving out a lot of misinformation. And you know what we do over here? We spread facts and we state our what? Opinions. Yes. Round of applause. Moving on. Okay. Now we're going to talk about... Before I get into the Guardians, I only have a few more topics up here, but we are going to get into right now the Gamecocks, and we're going to talk about women's basketball for a moment. So the other day on Veterans Day, actually, the Lady Gamecocks played Clemson. And right before the game, they announced that Maddie Daniels was suspended from the team. There was no foreseen return date, and there was no foreseen answer or explanation given as to why she was suspended. And head coach Dawn Staley does what she normally does, and she doesn't give out too much information, but she makes it very clear that the player really has their fate in their own hands. It's up to her for when she comes back. She'll be evaluated daily. I don't think that she'll be here for the next game, which is going to be on the 15th, but it's up to her to decide what she wants to do. And I think they do a pretty good job of when things happen with athletes, not just spreading their business all over the media and things, because the Carolina Gamecocks, especially for the women, have a lot of media attention regardless of what they're. If they're super great or they're super bad, they're going to have a lot of media attention. primarily because of head coach Dawn Staley and what she's done with that program. And now it's one of those elite top staple programs in the country, right? However, they're making me kind of nervous because they have, like, right now active on their roster is about 9 players. And I think coming into the season they had 12, but Ashley Watkins is now out. Chloe Kitts is out, and now Maddie is suspended. So right now their roster that I looked at was at one point 12, and I looked at it again, it was 11. So if you take out Chloe and you take out Maddie, they're running kind of thin. But they have depth within the bench, and I think that's another reason why they kind of play a lot of people off of their bench. So is it kind of time to panic? No. I think it will be time to panic when they get down to maybe like 7, if they were to get down to 7. But that also means that these athletes have to stay elite. They have to stay healthy, and they really have to stay focused because anything could happen. I really hope that Maddie pulls it together and can really get back out there, because she is a staple on the team and she does make a difference, especially coming into her sophomore year and she's being a guard. And it'll be really nice to see her on the court, because to me, I think that South Carolina is at their best, obviously, when they have their entire best. And I mean in terms of behavior, in terms of healthiness, in terms of just having the players out there. And already missing 2 permanent this season is really, really one of those things where it's like, okay, this is not going to be the most helpful for this team. Being down 2, that means you have 10 active. Maddie has to pull it together. Maddie has to get it together and she can't undo her suspension, but to get off a suspension and to never make it back on there. Because that's one thing that I will say about head coach Dawn. She's very, very, very keen on your academics, you being a student athlete and doing what you're supposed to do. You're not going to play if you're messing up. You're not going to play if you are out there acting a fool. You're not going to play if, just because you're great, that doesn't guarantee you the opportunity to play on that team. So I really stand by it. But South Carolina also has some other issues going on. And this one does not pertain to basketball, right? It doesn't pertain to basketball. So we're going to add his picture up here, but it pertains to football. Okay, so LaNorris Sellers, it has been reported that he is going to sit out, this is alleged, for the remainder of the season, so about 3 or 4 games, and he is going to seek the transfer portal. He wants out. He's done. He's over it. And it's so wild because literally a year and a half ago, maybe, a lot of people didn't really know about LaNorris Sellers. And then suddenly he hit the scene and he blew up. And, everybody knows him now for his speed, his athleticism, and just his abilities. And I can say this season, although he hasn't necessarily played at his top tier, the offensive line has also not been top tier either. Right? And it seems as if the player that we saw, that dynamic player that we saw right in front of our eyes, a lot of people just was like, oh, I was like, oh, I'm a fan. Oh, I'm a fan. Right? And I got to see this when they played Clemson, and I saw the things that he did, offensively against Clemson, and then they pulled out the win. I was like, oh yeah, he's going to be good. He's great. And he was a freshman at the time. So seeing how well he played, how athletic he was, and just all the things that he was doing, and to then see it this season, and it's like, this is not the same LaNorris Sellers that we saw last year. This is not the elite player that he is supposed to be. Could some of it be his fault? Sure. Holding on to the ball too long, scrambling a little bit too much, not throwing the ball away, and just trying to always make the play. And I think that's a lot of players are dealing with that. But he's just not as dynamic as he was. And I don't know if that's kind of like they have a lot of issues with the offensive coordinator over there. Beamer's having some trouble with coaching, and it's just a lot of things going on with South Carolina. And it's like South Carolina did this historic run last year and was really just showing like this team is building something special. This team is getting somewhere great, winning the 6 in a row, and really seeing the downward spiral that they have been doing this entire season is really confusing and it's really mind blowing. Like, South Carolina, what is going on? And LaNorris Sellers' brother is also on the team. And one of the reasons why he wanted to come to South Carolina was because of his brother, and his family likes South Carolina. So it wouldn't surprise me if the brother also at some point wants to enter the transfer portal, if LaNorris Sellers does enter the portal and then goes and tries to go where his brother is, or just to go somewhere completely different. But I think this is a total hit to South Carolina, and I think they need to figure it out fast. I don't know what they need to do, but they definitely need to figure it out and fast. Letting LaNorris Sellers go is really not going to be, and I know this really not like up to them, because if he's already decided and made up his mind that that's what he wants to do, but I'm saying somebody somewhere needs to change his mind quickly. They need to change his mind quickly, because this is not what they need. They don't need to lose him. And I'm afraid that if they do lose him, the program, because a lot of, they have great players over there, but the program is going to go back to being kind of like that's non-existent. We don't really care about program. And I would hate for it to do that. I would hate for it to take that route. But right now, they're just spinning and spiraling out of control over there in South Carolina. And they got a lot of things to figure out. Kind of like Florida State. They got a lot of things to figure out and fast. Okay, so we will see. We'll see if he actually enters the portal. And if he does enter the portal, we will keep tabs on where he goes. He's going to go somewhere. Somebody's going to pick him up, because he's not a bad player. And he has a lot more left in the tank, a lot more growth to do as well. So, I don't know. Gamecocks need to get it together. Like, quickly. Okay? You can't lose Sellers now. Child, you're going to lose Sellers and Sellers. And on the notes of football and how I agreed with Cam Newton on this one, which you guys, if you watch this channel, then you already know that I don't agree with Cam Newton on a lot of things and a lot of what he does and such and such, such and such. So this is Grambling University versus Bethune-Cookman University. And some of my favorite athletes are over there on Bethune-Cookman. And I need to go ahead and get in the DMs and say, what was y'all thinking? Okay, but at first I didn't see, like, I saw the video and in the fight happening right on the internet, but I was like, oh, it was just a normal thing. I got, whatever. I bypassed it, and then I saw it again, and I saw it again. So I'm like, what is this? What is going on? Like, I thought at first I thought it was just like maybe like 2 or 3 players fighting each other. I didn't know it was a whole brawl. Like they went ham on each other. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at first until I watched the video. And I was like, that's unacceptable. That's immediately what I said was that's unacceptable. Right? It was just, why y'all do that? Why would y'all do that? Right? And then I saw the video even more, and I saw, a student being flung over the bleacher, and it got out of control. And I thought it was at the end of the game once, Bethune-Cookman had already lost or whatever. And it wasn't. It was at halftime. And after the brawl broke out, 9 players were then ejected from the game, and they were just, don't come back. And they had to figure it out. And then it came out that the SWAC went over the footage, went over the situation, what happened. And we should already know from the last time that something like this happened, the SWAC was on it. The SWAC did not play any games. They release suspensions and fines quickly because they have a 0 tolerance policy for this type of behavior, right? And they announced Monday, because again, I watched this happen and I just was like, I didn't pay it too much mind, because again, things do happen, but when I seen it like this, I'm like, this is crazy. But they announced that more than 24 players were suspended following the breakout of the fight, following the brawl, and following them actually figuring out what happened. There were 9 players from Bethune-Cookman that were suspended and 18 from Grambling State University. 18. Okay. And the commissioner of the SWAC went on to say, "We're extremely disappointed by the events that transpired during halftime of the Bethune-Cookman at Grambling State football game. Acts of that nature have zero place in the Southwestern Athletic Conference and intercollegiate athletics. The conference office has and will continue to enforce a zero tolerance policy for all acts deemed to be unsportsmanlike and contrary to the high standard of good sportsmanship we expect from all individuals associated with athletic programs within our league." It goes on to say that the 27 players that were involved, 3 of the 27 players received 2-game suspensions, and the rest will be barred for 1 game. That's a lot. That is a lot. And then it says Grambling was hit with a $40,000 fine, and Bethune-Cookman was given a $25,000 fine. Okay. And then when I seen Cam Newton's video, Cam Newton was speaking also on Grambling's coach, because in the post-game conference, he said, if you're gonna disrespect us, then you're basically gonna get handled. Those are not the direct words. I'm just doing like a paraphrase there. And Cam Newton was like, that should have been his job, because at the end of the day, you are the leader of your program. You are the face of your program. I'm not saying what you can't do, because obviously you did and you could, but you can't get up there and say nothing like that, especially when the fight was already going viral. Are you crazy? That's the way you operate and run your program. That does not make you or your program or the SWAC look good, period, at all. It was just unacceptable behavior. It should have not been any other explanation really besides what happened out there at halftime was unacceptable behavior, and it does not fully represent our program and or the conference that we are in. And it should have been left at that. Because when you say things the way he said it, and again, you're saying it to the media, and the media is going to run it. They're going to run it. Some people may, crop it, reverse it, and flip it, but a lot of people are going to run it the way that it is and the way that it sounds. And the way that it appeared was like, this is the way you run your program. You were okay with it. You were okay with that fight breaking out. You were okay with getting 9 players, ejected from the game. You're okay with that type of attitude and behavior against each other. That's not okay. That's not okay. And I agree with Cam Newton when it's like, there's already a lot of complaints about exposure. There's already a lot of, lack of money, lack of resources that is always being said to have. And at the end of the day, this is also things that you can research yourself too. At the end of the day, a lot of the HBCUs are funded by non-Black people. You can say it the way it is. I mean, look at Mackenzie Scott giving out millions upon millions upon millions to HBCUs. That's not a bad thing either. That's great. That's amazing. Getting your government funding, amazing, right? But at the same time, there's just certain levels of behavior that just happens, and there's certain level of decorum that also happens, and that also comes from coaches when they're in predicaments or situations when they're asked about things that are happening within their team. If you felt that, they were disrespectful and they need to be dealt with, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that part out loud. You automatically should condemn the behavior, because that is the way that you are looked at as how you operate your program. And then, of course, when he's in the Tuesday coaches call, he's like, oh, what happened doesn't represent our school and organization and the people that are in it. Of course it does not, but that's what you should have said first. You can't bring it back now. Yeah, you can say it now, but now it seems like you said it because somebody probably told you and somebody probably got on you about what you said, and now you're trying to you backpedal and take it back. It was just unprofessional. And I agree with Cam Newton when he was like, it's unprofessional. You gotta see and look who cut the checks. You gotta see who really runs it, who puts games on TV, who has the opportunities to say the yay or the nay. This type of behavior is just unacceptable, and it cannot be condoned. And of course, I'm in the comments too, and people are like, well, they never talk about, like, they never say nothing when it's other schools and they fight and things like that. Wrong, because they do. But also, a lot of those other schools are not putting themselves in those predicaments for something like that to happen. And why are we worrying about other schools when you need to worry about what we got going in our own backyard? That's the problem. The problem is we're always so worried about what other people are doing and why they don't get nothing said to them when they do it, but it's a problem when we do it. Yeah, of course it's a problem when we do it. And if you know it's a problem when we do it, then don't do it. Set the example. Lead from the front. Hello? It's not that hard. And sure, maybe I might get some flack for it because I'm gonna cut this clip up and I'm gonna put it out here the way I said it. But we gotta stop doing that. Just because somebody else is doing it doesn't give you the right to do it too. Two wrongs don't make a right. So because they was wrong, you can also be wrong, and then you are basically using that to condone the behavior. Come on, y'all. We better than that. Period. It shouldn't happen. Yes, fights and stuff do happen. That's cool. But it shouldn't have been no brawl, and it shouldn't have been condoned, and nothing should have seemed as if it was condoned. It shouldn't have been coaches punching people and knocking each other out. I even seen a tweet that was like, yeah, my son's a cop, and he said one of the assistant coaches was punching another kid, and athlete, what is we doing? Automatic termination. That's what it should have been. Because this has to be the standard. If there is no standard, then come on. You can't expect to get opportunities when they think that you're going to behave and act like that every time you're given an opportunity. The game was streamed. Thousands of people probably watched this go on and probably was like, what is happening? So we need to stop doing that. And like I said, I agree with Cam Newton when he was like, do you think that Nick Saban or, one of these other coaches would have got on there and said some stuff like that what he said? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just like they tore Kim Mulkey apart when she was like, when she said something about a player should have did that to Angel instead of another player, they ate her up. And they condemned her statements and her behavior because that is not appropriate. So it does happen at other schools, and they do condemn the behavior. And a lot of times, a lot of this stuff is not happening. They're not putting themselves in those predicaments or those positions to have the negative light happen the way it happened. Nothing about it was funny. Nothing about it was cool. Nothing about it was respectful. Nothing about it was good. Take accountability. Accountability needs to happen. Period. And you're not going to get me to change my mind about that. So, like it or don't like it, I stand on what I said. Okay? Bye. Now, we're going to move on to baseball. We're going to talk about the Guardians and their two stars being accused of and facing federal charges. Okay? So, the Cleveland Guardians pitcher Luis Ortiz, and Luis Ortiz is the second pitcher here. And other guy is Emmanuel Clace. Okay, so they're facing federal charges for allegedly participating in sports gambling schemes where them two together were essentially taking bribes to rig pitches for bettors. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, Luis, which included wire fraud conspiracy, money laundering, and influencing sporting contests by bribery. Ortiz was released on a $500,000 bond with conditions, including surrendering his passport and traveling restrictions. Okay? So it says prosecutors allege that Ortiz and Clace agreed to manipulate their performance, such as throwing certain type of pitches to help associates win bets on pitch location and velocity. The payoff, the indictment claims that they took several thousands of dollars in payouts to ensure success for these bets. Ortiz appeared in court on November the 9th of 2025. Obviously, that's the year that we're in. And appeared in federal court in Boston on November the 10th, which he was granted conditional release. On November 12th, he pled not guilty in Brooklyn federal court. So this is like multiple locations happening. And this is why the feds is involved, okay? And then it says legal and team status. Both Ortiz and Clace, so it's C-L-A-S-E. So if I'm not saying that right, okay, but I'll say Emmanuel. So Luis and Emmanuel have been put on non-disciplinary paid leave since the MLB began its investigation in July of 2025. The Cleveland Guardians have stated that they are cooperating with the investigation. Ortiz must surrender his passport. Obviously, he paid the $500,000 bond. I mean, he had it, right? In his restriction to travel, he can only travel to New York, Massachusetts, and Ohio, and has been ordered to avoid contact with potential victims, witnesses, and co-defendants, which is pretty standard when you're going through a case, right? So both of these players have gotten themselves in some mighty trouble when it comes to gambling. So gambling has already taken the ranks of the NFL, has already taken the ranks of the NBA. It's even got into the NCAA, which I talked about on my other show, and now we're in MLB. What? My golly. Yes, MLB. Of course, we're going to take note on this. Of course, we're going to keep tabs on this. We're going to see, Emmanuel also said, not guilty. I didn't do it. Okay, but I do want to say, just because they said they're not guilty doesn't mean that they're not guilty. That's just the typical plea when you plead it in. You just say you're guilty. You say you're not guilty, excuse me. So they already said that they're not guilty. They said we ain't do it. They say it wasn't us. It was somebody else, but it wasn't us. But usually when the feds really come after you, and they've been investigated since July, and here we are in November, they got something on you. They definitely have something somewhere on you. Let's see how much. But this is crazy, because were they not making any money? Like, were they not making enough money where they feel as though they had to do something strange for a piece of change? Okay, so Emmanuel's contract, the one at the top here, has a 5-year, $20 million contract with the Cleveland Guardians, which included a $2 million signing bonus. His salary varies by year, with a $4.5 million salary in 2025, and he was scheduled for a $6 million salary in 2026. The contract also included two $10 million club options for 2027 and 2028 that could increase to $13 million. Now let's look at Luis, because they was doing bets like they was broke. They was doing bets like they was broke. Okay, now Luis probably was a little broke compared to the numbers compared to Emmanuel's numbers. Okay. The MLB player Luis Ortiz, his 2025 salary was $782,000. So basically, oh, wait a minute. Am I reading it wrong? Oh, yeah, I did. Hold on. Take it back. So it was $782,600. His 2024 salary was a little bit less than that. So it was $747,500. And then he had, in 2024, he had that 1-year deal, but then he got another deal on top of that. So he wasn't a millionaire like Emmanuel was, but he still was making good money when you think about it, right? You're making enough money to where you shouldn't have to rig bets the way that he was doing it, you know? And maybe his bet money was equaling out to him having $1 million, and maybe he was good. That's how he was able to secure his $50,000 bond, because he was like, you know what? I got the money. I got the money. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it up. Right? But it's like, you guys are ruining, if it comes to fruition, but again, all this right now is alleged. But if this is not alleged, you have now ruined your career and your money going forward for doing gambling bets on yourself. You can't make this up. So we're gonna keep our eyes on it. Yeah, we're gonna keep our eyes on it for sure, to see who does what, who goes where, and what trouble they gonna get themselves into some more. Okay. I'm going to end the show here. I was going to do my Equestrian 101, but I need to get off here because I really, really need to go and do my homework. And I've been on here long enough. So I'm going to do my Equestrian 101. I'll probably make a video and I'll just like have to repost it. I'll probably go live either tomorrow or Saturday before I do the game, and I'm gonna do Equestrian 101 because it's time to expand and do other sports over here. I don't want to keep talking about the same sports, which I don't. I really spread it out and I talk about a lot of different other things, but I have fallen in love with equestrian sports, and I really think that if people kind of understand it and get into it and see the excitement with it, then maybe they'll like it as well. And I'm trying to, make my way into that world in terms of being a media person that can go out there, because I really want to be involved in that way. So I feel like the best way to do it is to start teaching about it and to start talking about it and to start being excited about it, okay? So my Equestrian 101 video will come at a later date, but I'm going to get off of here now because your girl got to do homework, and the homework is due in an hour and 59 minutes. So I got to get off of here. I can't keep talking. I can't keep chatting. But thank you so much for being on here. If you want to subscribe to the Playmakers Press free digital newspaper that comes out on Tuesdays, all I need you to do is go to prettygirlsmedia.com, hit the newspaper. You can actually view it if you want to see what it's all about, and hit subscribe, put your email in at the bottom, and become pressed. Become pressed. If you want to support by hiring me, making me be a part of your podcast, or being on my podcast, or doing all of the extra things, you can always make sure you send me an email at media@pglovesports.org, or you can send me a DM on any of my social media platforms. Please make sure you're liking, you're commenting, you're sharing, and you are following on all social media platforms at PG Love Sports. Once again, I am Des. This is your Daily Dose with Des. I appreciate you for all that you do, and I can't wait to see y'all on the next one when I'm talking about equestrian. So make sure that you're in there like swimwear. Okay.